Hi there, Elizabeth Hines here from the Autoimmune Free Cooking Club and our Paleo family. Sorry, let me clean up a little bit. We're having one of my very favorite foods tonight, and my husband may not know this is one of my favorite foods. It's not, I don't actually order it often, ever, maybe, in a restaurant. The French dip sandwich. I love it. I don't know what it is. Well, I guess it's that umami flavor, that like sort of meaty, rich. Umami doesn't mean salty, but it usually goes with salty more than sweet, of course. I love not bad onions. I love that rich, the au jus, and anyway, so that's what we're making in the Instant Pot. I'm not a huge fan of pot roast, so I don't make that very often. This is delicious, and I was inspired to do it when I found these white baguettes, gluten-free baguettes at the grocery store, and they are expensive. They are $8 for those two, and so I bought this and thought, you know what, we're going to try French dip. So I have about a tablespoon of avocado oil, and I forgot to turn my pot on. My kids' cousins just came and surprised them, and that was just getting started, and they were leaving, so it disrupted my mental flow. So anyway, I did not have that on, so I turned that on, saute more. I wanted 3 onions. You saw half of that one was bad, so I'll have 2.5, and that's okay. So I'm going to get my onions going. We're going to make this as not fussy as possible. You know, not every recipe can be a dump and go, but I really try hard to make my recipes as easy as possible because I want people to cook. Because cooking at home is how you control your ingredients and can stay healthy. So I'm just slicing these. I guess I could have diced them. I'm not going to take them out. I looked at a lot of recipes before I made this, and there's actually a lot of variety. A lot of them include beer. Some include the seasoning packets. There's an au jus seasoning packet from McCormick. There may be others, and you know, sort of a knockoff brand, but you know those little red packets they have at the grocery store. So we can't eat any of that stuff because of gluten and other additives in there. Let me get rid of this. The other really common one that I saw was the can of beef consomme, Campbell's beef consomme, which I love. My aunt actually used to make this rice dish with the consomme. Oh my goodness, I loved it, but it has gluten in it, so can't eat that. So we're going to get our umami flavors from real ingredients, which is what you want ideally in life, right? You want to be using as much whole real food as possible. I'm going to go ahead and just get my garlic started. These are kind of big. So I have 4 cloves of garlic. I'm going to smash them, and then I'll peel them and just set them to the side, and I'll chop them in a second. Nice and fresh. So this is the sort of recipe that's really perfect for the Instant Pot because it takes a long time. If you were to do this in a slow cooker or, you know, a Dutch oven on the stove, it would for sure be an all-day process. So we're saving a lot of time by using the Instant Pot. You can tell when there's a lot of sugar in a particular food by how sticky your hands are after you cut it. My hands are super sticky after cutting garlic. Okay, so before I lose this is a beef bottom round roast. It is 3.4 pounds. I asked for 3 pounds, and when they weighed it, it came out to 3.4. And he would have been happy to cut some of it off, but I just felt like, you know, then what are you going to do with that 0.4? Nobody else is going to want that, so I just So we'll take it and we'll have leftovers. Again, a lot of recipes call for that chuck blade roast, which is what I had with my first couple Instant Pot tries, and I just did not like that cut. I know that that is recommended. This is my salt and pepper that I mixed up to go on my meat, but it's all going to the same place, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and put a little of that salt in there to start pulling the liquid out of those onions. When I looked at this bottom round, I just thought, that looks really good. That's what I want. It has that nice marbling. And if you watched my pot roast, Third Time's the Charm, this is why I just sharpened my knife. This is the cut that I bought that turned out really well. And I cooked it for 90 minutes. So I cooked it for a really long time. I cut it into chunks, just like I'm doing here. I cut that little fat cap off. And 90 minutes, and it was great. It wasn't dry. It wasn't overdone. Okay, and we'll leave it at that. There's still this hunk of fat right here. Yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to hurt myself. I'm just going to leave that. Take out my onions, at least most of them. I won't worry about getting them all out. And this is really just because I want to free up the space in there. Some recipes call for sauteing the onions like I did here and then just setting them to the side and using them, you know, just when you build the sandwich. And you can do that. I'm going to just cook my meat with the onions in there because I want all that flavor. So I'm going to sear my meat. I'm trying to season all sides. Again, that was a teaspoon, a little over a teaspoon of salt, and about a half a teaspoon of black pepper. Just going to let those sear on all sides. And chop my garlic. So to keep this paleo, this is a mostly paleo channel. We're mostly paleo family. That's what I'm cooking. I'll feed my family that bread and they'll be thrilled to have that. And I will just have the meat and the au jus with my vegetables. I'm going to saute some mushrooms, and I think I have broccoli for tonight. I think that's my green vegetable. So I'll just saute those vegetables. My husband might end up putting mushrooms on his sandwich, like a Philly cheesesteak kind of. And I'll just have it bowl style. If I wanted to get fancy, I could make some cauliflower rice or mashed cauliflower or even mashed potatoes. Potatoes are a vegetable. Potatoes are perfectly acceptable on a paleo diet. Not autoimmune paleo because they're a nightshade. And then I know a lot of people are doing low carb and keto, which is why I tend to talk about cauliflower before I talk about potatoes. But potatoes are a real whole food. They are fine and dandy to eat. I'm just going to use my long-handled tongs to put these around. These are the flavorings I'm going to add. So a lot of recipes will call for soy sauce in this type of recipe. Soy is a legume. Legumes are inflammatory to a lot of people. So they're usually, well, they are excluded on the paleo diet or autoimmune paleo. So we use coconut aminos instead. It has very similar flavor profile, but made from coconut. So we'll have a tablespoon of that, a tablespoon of fish sauce. Don't smell it, just use it. and a tablespoon of Worcestershire, which Worcestershire is not technically a paleo ingredient, but it's pretty good. It's water and vinegar, molasses, it has some sugar, a bunch of spices, and it's fun. I want that flavor. And then I'm going to add a little bit of thyme, these thyme leaves, a little bit of rosemary, and a couple bay leaves, which I've been very prejudiced against bay leaves, I will confess. These are really small ones. But we had a super delicious pot roast at my brother's house for Thanksgiving, and I was trying to figure out what was in it. I was sort of like fishing around in there. I saw rosemary leaves in there, and there were bay leaves. I was like, oh, maybe I should give bay leaves a try. So we're going to get bay leaves back in there. So again, if you've had a French dip in a restaurant, it was almost certainly made with a commercial ingredient that, you know, contains a ton of salt, probably, or good chance, MSG. And so we're trying to get a really good, rich broth, lots and lots of flavor without using any of that kind of artificial stuff. So this is our lineup of flavors. We just need to brown one more side, and then we'll get on with it. I'm going to taste my broth. This was some chicken broth from the freezer. Yeah, it's not salty at all. So just want to make sure I wasn't adding a salty broth. I don't want things to get overly salty. I'm using chicken broth because it's what I have. I don't have any beef broth. I thought I had a carton of it actually, but I don't. I don't have any homemade, and I don't have any store-bought beef broth, so I'm using chicken, which I almost always use chicken broth, even with beef dishes, and it's totally fine. I have some ham broth right now because I just cooked a ham bone after a family get-together, and I will only use that ham bone or ham broth to make ham soup. So we'll have, I'll just saute a bunch of vegetables, put in the broth, put in some ham that I reserved, that I kind of picked off the bone, and that will be our ham soup. That tastes really good. I wouldn't use that ham broth for anything else. If you eat beans, it'll be really good for making beans. So I hear. I'm not a bean eater. But my bean eater friends would say that that would be a good use of that. So I'm going to take my meat out so I can deglaze my pan. Can you see all of that? That's called fond, that brown stuff. I'm going to pour in my broth. It's going to steam. And then I'm going to use my wooden spoon. Saute is still on, which is what I want. So you want to make sure you scrape this off, one, because you'll be then releasing all that flavor into your dish, which is what you want. But also, your Instant Pot will have a hard time coming up to temperature that if the bottom of your pan is covered, it's the heating element is just at the bottom, so it'll be blocking the heat from coming up, and it would not cook right, wouldn't pressurize. Okay, so gave that a stir. So let me go ahead and put in my bay leaves, my garlic. I could have sauteed my garlic, but I didn't want it to burn, and it'll be fine. It's going to be cooking for 90 minutes under pressure. I just want a little bit of rosemary. I have a huge rosemary plant in my yard, so I just snipped one off. Just a little bit of thyme, kind of ran it through my fingers to start releasing those oils. So we're going to give all of these a shake. This one has so much sweetness in it that sometimes it's hard to get the lid open. Okay, so there's the fish sauce. Worcestershire. This is a really good one. This is just Whole Foods, organic. Has a really great flavor. I love the smell of it. All Alright, because I'm kind of clumsy, I'm going to go ahead and put the lids on these so I don't accidentally knock the bottle over. Not that that's ever happened before. And get this out of the way. Let's get all this stuff stirred up. Actually, I need these back. I feel like I'm doing a little dance over here. So I'm just going to stir this around. When you put things in your Instant Pot and put it under pressure, it's not moving around. So it's not, you know, boiling to the point that stuff that's on the top is going to end up on the bottom. You need to stir things around. So get those onions all down under the broth. Tossing my meat around. Just trying to submerge it in there. I don't know if you can see from the overhead, but I would say my chunks of meat are about 3/4 of the way submerged. I'm going to make sure my rubber gasket is all the way around here, sealed really well. I'm going to turn it off. Put on my lid, lock it into place, move that to sealing, and I always use the manual button. I want high pressure, and then I press the plus. 90 minutes, people, 90 minutes. And what I learned from the pot roast is you really want to let the pressure come down naturally, at least 10 minutes. If you are in a hurry and you've got to go and you can't let it completely come down naturally, at least wait 10 minutes and then you can quick release the rest. So that's it. It's 420. This is going to take a little while to come up to pressure, probably 10, maybe up to 15 minutes. And then it will cook away for an hour and a half. We'll let it come down, and I'll have my bread buttered and toasted. I have some provolone to go on there. Like I said, I'll have sauteed mushrooms, and that will be the sandwich component. I'll have some broccoli on the side, and we will have a French dip feast. Okay, see you in just a little bit. Hey there, everybody. So I had my pressure reduced naturally for, it was like 11, almost 12 minutes, and then I quick released the remaining, and it took about 2 minutes for that to completely come down. It just smells amazing in here. I've been smelling it all afternoon. Look how beautiful that looks. It looks like exactly what I want. I apologize for the overhead shot going out during the prep. It just did. I'm sorry. So I'm going to fish the meat out. So with a French dip, you don't generally want to thicken the broth. So I'm just going to let that go. I'm not going to turn on saute. If you want to thicken it for some reason, which is perfectly fine, you make it the way you want it. Just turn on saute, make your little slurry, and add that in once it starts to boil. And it's very hot, so it will boil quickly. So remember that I trimmed this, and there was that one little section of fat, and right there it is. So I want to get that out, because just nobody wants to eat that, right? And I'm just going to put it right here on the counter so it's out of the way. And the rest should just all be delicious meat. There was that little piece of fat on all 3 chunks. There's so much steam. I'm having a hard time seeing it. I can't wait to taste it. I can tell that it is falling apart tender, which is, of course, what we wanted. A little bit right there. So that's nothing. Alright, so just shred, shred, shred. Steam facial. This really smells like the roast like this that my grandma would make. And I know she can do anything fancy. She might have had something like Worcestershire sauce, but for sure she didn't have coconut aminos. She didn't have fish sauce, and she would not have put in a bay leaf or thyme or rosemary. I can guarantee you. Salt, pepper, onions, that would have really been it. Okay, so this was exactly what I wanted. I wanted the meat to shred. Then we're going to layer it on our sandwiches. So I'm going to get this back in my broth, au jus, to be French. I'm sorry I'm doing it facing me. I just don't have the forward-facing pouring skills. All right, let's get that in there. Clean up this stuff. I'm going to get myself a little taste, of course, and then we'll build our sandwich. Just want to make sure, I need to make sure, right, that it's seasoned well. I'll let that cool just a tad so I don't burn myself. Oh, the broth fell out. The meat is so tender. It's delicious. Delicious, delicious, delicious. Okay. So I showed you my French bread loaves, and I split them open and I put some butter in a skillet, and I melted the butter, and I put the bread in the skillet with the butter and put all of that in the oven. We'll make this pretty. So that'll be for the jus. If your broth is really fatty, you can use a fat separator. This one is not. I mean, there's a little bit on the top, but it's not bad. I'm being particular about what I'm getting out because I need to photograph this. So let me find my little piece of bun that I save for myself to taste. Or French roll, I should say. I love mayonnaise on this kind of thing, like a roast beef sandwich. So I would put some mayonnaise on it if I had some, which I happen to not. But that would be delicious. If you have like a garlic aioli, that would be yummy. So you really want your, this is provolone because that's traditional. You want that to melt. So I'm hoping as I put the meat on, that will melt it. These are kind of skinny rolls, these little gluten-free ones. So you're going to dip it in the broth anyway, so there's no need to try real hard to keep, you know, to drain it when you put it on the bun, because that's kind of what you want. You want it to be kind of soft and soggy. Soggy, that's not a very nice word, but that's a French tip. You're supposed to dip it, right? So good. So good. And messy. I think it needs to be a little saltier, honestly. I love salt. It does have great flavor, but I would like it a teeny bit saltier. If you're starting with a stock, a purchased stock, or broth, If you buy a salted one, you'll probably be able to keep the same amount of salt I used in the recipe. If you have an unsalted one or a homemade one that is not salty, you may need to add a little bit more. I would say probably 2 teaspoons of salt to the recipe. But this is delicious. And we're going to have our sauteed mushrooms and broccoli to round out this meal to make it actually healthy. But it is delicious. And the 90 minutes seems a little excessive, but it's not excessive. The meat was done. The meat is not dry. It is flavorful. It is perfect. It's really, really good. The broth is really, really good. I just think it needs a little more salt. I'm going to put the cheese on my family's here and then roll it back up so it will start to melt. And then I'm going to stand here and just eat all that meat right out of the pan. Does that sound good? I'll just stand here and eat it all because it's that good. I'm just kidding. I guess I should call my family down and say that supper's ready. So I'm just lining my rolls with the cheese. Put them together, roll them back up in the foil, and that cheese will melt. Okay, that's it. French dip in the Instant Pot. It was very easy. Just takes a little bit longer. Delicious, totally worth it, and I highly recommend you make this recipe. All right, thanks everybody. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing that. There's this app that does projections, and they are projecting that I will hit 10,000 subscribers in about 10 months. So that is fantastic. I'm super excited about that. Help me get there. If you like this video, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, hit that little bell so you'll get notified when I publish a new recipe. And I would love to have you as part of our little friendly community here. All right, everybody. Thank you. Good night.